Hey friends, welcome back to the Alex and Andrew podcast. Today we are so excited to share with you guys 6 proven strategies for chart-topping songs, just ways to make your songs better. These are the things that help get songs landed on playlists and sounding pro in general. Andrew and I have both worked on hundreds of songs professionally, and we are so excited to share these strategies with you guys today. Andrew, how are you doing? Are you ready to dive into this list?
I'm pumped about this one today. Having your song sound fantastic is pretty important, especially when you're putting your song up against other people's songs on Spotify and playlists. There is no isolated music anymore. You don't listen to a CD or a tape anymore. It is now on Spotify on playlists. It is now on Apple Music on playlists. It is now back to other people's music. So you need to make sure that your music has the potential to actually make it in the industry. And today we're going to break down 6 things that we see wrong. We have worked on hundreds of songs a piece, and we're going to break down 6 of them today. So I'm pumped. Let's just get right into it.
Let's get into it. Yeah. Number 1. So number 1 on our list is, drum roll, poor performances. That will, of course, make for a worse song, and what will make for a better song is a great performance, a strong performance, a passionate performance, or just a performance tailored to the energy of the song. Andrew, what's your input on this?
This is a big one. A lot of people say, like, I get a lot of questions asked all the time where people are like, how do I get my drums to sound bigger? And I'm like, easy. Play them harder. It's a simple answer. But like, how do I make my vocals sound like I'm really singing loudly? It's like, sing loudly. There's a really clear path to what you want to do. If you want to capture a great performance, you have to capture a great performance at the source, and then you can go on from there. You cannot go any farther than capturing that great performance. You have to have the end goal in mind though before you press record, and I think that's really important.
It's so true. Like, I'm thinking back to some sessions I've done in like commercial level studios with the drums on the floor and just getting the drummer in, and then the drums are sounding a bit weak, and we're like, how can we bring this out more? And it's like after the fact, like trying to do parallel compression, all this stuff. But it's like, you know what? No, we got to tell the drummer he's got to hit that snare hard because this is a rock song. We got to tell the guitar player, okay, like on the electric guitar there, don't worry about it being so perfect, so technical. We need you in this chorus to strum, strum like you're a rock guitar player. And as soon as that feedback was brought into those sessions, it's like, now the song has energy. Now it's coming to life. Same thing goes for vocals. Same thing goes. It's like, we have to have strong performances, or if it's a delicate song, then we need to have those delicate performances, but we have to match the energy. And a lot of the times this becomes an issue with like really big moments where you want it to sound big, but the instruments just like aren't played aggressively. Like, I've mixed songs where there's there's supposed to be this huge chorus in it, and like the acoustic guitar is the most, it's fast, and it's the picking is fast and stuff, but it's just so gentle. But it's supposed to be a big moment. So then, of course, you're trying to fix it after the fact. But what would have made it so much better in the first place is just going hard, nailing the performance, matching the energy of the song, whether it's aggressive or gentle or whatever. And I'm sure from your experience, Andrew, like you've seen this a bunch.
I've seen it a bunch. There's one story that'll drive this home. I was working with a rock band, and they were really lacking a lot of low end. And they were telling me, hey, the low end needs some work. The low end needs some work. You got to mix it differently. You got to do something different, And so I kept going back and forth through revisions. So finally, I tracked the bass myself, and I sent them the song with the bass track myself. By the way, they sent me a DI file. So I was running it through my own bass amp sims. And then I recorded my bass as a DI file. So I was using the exact same preset, the exact same settings. Everything was the same. The only thing that was different was the fact that I tracked the bass. And I played it hard. And I played the parts solid and right. And then I sent it back to them. They said it was perfect. And I told them that that was me playing the bass. And once they realized that, they obviously were like, thank you so much for telling us this. We will retract the bass and then send it back to you. And then ever since then, and I've worked with them multiple times since then, every time they always send phenomenal sounding bass tracks and guitar tracks. It's been like that since the beginning. The only exceptions to this is if you are not playing the song, you are actually using, like for example, they use electric drums. They trigger all their drums, their sample replaced and everything. So that's the only substitution to this whole thing.
I totally understand that about the guitars. I literally, I'm aware of engineers that that are also great guitar players and amazing at tone matching. And sometimes if one of the background guitars, the energy is not right or the performance is weak, I know of engineers that will literally just retrack the part exactly, but with the right feel. And it's a background guitar anyways, and it's it finishes the song off just right. And yeah, it's a strategy, right? It's you're the job is to get the song to sound as best as it can, and if you can just dive into the performance and get the performance right, that is going to make a huge difference in every single instrument. So let's move on to number 2. Andrew, what do we got for number 2?
Number 2 is making things a way to destroy your mix is to make things too perfect. That's a way to destroy a song. So sometimes letting loose, letting up on that a little bit, and letting the music flow and enjoying a little bit is a great way to make your song better. So one way this happens is over quantizing. If you are snapping everything to the grid, there are some exceptions. I will say in heavy genres like metal, I will almost time align the kick and the snare almost right to the grid itself, just because that's a bit necessary. But besides that, I really, really like humanizing things a lot and making sure that you're actually leaving the human element in there. And so what do you do in this case?
Totally agree. Here are a couple of great examples. Vocals. Imagine you snapped vocals exactly to the grid. Exactly. It would sound completely robotic, because it's okay that, of course, if a vocal's out of time, you got to pocket the vocal, which means editing it so it's it's tight to the track. But you can't actually quantize each syllable and each word exactly. You can do it sometimes when they're off, but if it's not needed, don't edit it further, because that's when you start to get it sound robotic. And as soon as it's robotic, it's just, you can tell something's weird about the vocal. You can tell it's too edited. And this also goes for piano. You ever play a piano part and you roll into the chords a little bit at times? And it has that human element. Let's say then you go in your DAW and you recorded this piano MIDI and you quantize it 100%. It's you kind of ruin the whole point of the emotional piano take. That playing and that human feel. So try quantizing it maybe 50% as a starting point, and then back it off more or lean in a little more. It's these things of over editing, even with vocal tuning. It's this could go to vocal tuning. It's if you tune things too hard, it completely takes the feel away, So it feels it feels unnatural. And this whole point of if things are over quantized and too perfect, it makes it feel unnatural. And sometimes if that's a desired effect, in techno or something, or like auto-tune, you guys know the auto-tune vocal thing, sometimes that can be used as an effect. But if it's not, and you're doing this in just any song, any rock song, any singer-songwriter song, you could be hurting rather than helping things. So I think that's a really, really strong point for this list.
I completely agree, and I have nothing else to add to number 2.
Well, should we dive into number 3?
Yes, absolutely. So what's number 3?
Okay, so number 3 on this list is what can make for a worse song is if there's no hook, or going even further, there's just no chorus. And some songs, some of the greatest folk songs ever written back in the day, they may not have a chorus, and that's okay. But if you're looking to land on a Spotify playlist or have a chart-topping song, this is one point in particular that you want to pay attention to. You need something catchy, something recognizable, something to come back to. And this is almost a point on this list that shouldn't need to be said, but it's happened a few times where songs have come in where the production is really catchy and it has a modern pop feel to it, but there's no distinguishable hook in the song. And if you're missing that hook, you're kind of missing out on the opportunity for the genre. You're missing out on those playlists. So, of course, if you're a storyteller and a folk singer-songwriter and that's your thing, that's okay. But if you're looking to, get a hit you need something catchy. So make sure there's a strong hook or a strong chorus, and definitely don't skip over the chorus.
No.
What do you think, Andrew?
I agree. I will push back a little bit on the folk thing because I still think, like storytelling, folk writing, there still is a hook, and the hook is the story, right? It depends on what you want people to pay attention to. Do you want it to be sing along, bob your head to, or is it something that you want people to really dive deep and engage with the story? So in this case, you need to have a hook one way or another, whether that's the story and the emotion through the lyrics, or whether that is through the music itself. Now, there's one thing that I teach all the time. My students love this. It's called the earworm strategy. And what you do is you do 2 and 2. I called it music maths for a while, but people didn't like that. They liked the earworm strategy better. And so what happens is you come up with a phrase and you do it twice, and then you come up with another phrase and you do it twice, and then you do that full 4-bar section twice. So that is like a very, very common, almost every top song has that. Like, for example, Fast Car. You got a fast car. I got a tickets anywhere. So there's those 2 melodies there. And then you sing the same melody again.
And then
so that's
repeat
the 2.
it.
And repeat it. You know?
Magic formula right there.
Yeah, that's the magic formula. Baby, we can make a deal. And then da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It's the same melody, just twice over. And it works so well. And then you do the same thing for the chorus. You do the same thing for the verses. You could break it up during the bridge if you want to. But the earworm strategy just works. It's the 2 and 2. Just find a melody that works back and forth.
I love that, and that's actually giving me a way that I can align this like folk thing into you. So I'm thinking of, first thing I think of is like the Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, which is like,
yes.
Shout out to anyone who knows Canadian folk music, but this is like a song by Gordon Lightfoot, rest in peace. He wrote this masterpiece, and it's considered like a super hit song, but it doesn't have like a distinct chorus that it returns to. It's just verse over verse over verse. But there is a hook, and the hook is the catchy melody that repeats over and over and over. Every verse is the same melody, and in between almost every verse is, you could argue the chorus is actually just the instrumental guitar part, which is like this very repetitive guitar line that literally follows the earworm strategy that Andrew just talked about. It's like 2 phrases looped twice, and then into the next verse. So you gotta have just some type of catchy thing in your song. And even going back to the old folk songs, they all have them. So yeah. I think we just like we both justified this point even further.
I agree. Also, the Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, that was required studying when I was in high school.
That's great to hear. I never would have expected that, but that's awesome. One of my favorite songs.
It's incredible. It really is. If you guys haven't heard it, you got to check it out.
Yeah.
All right, so let's work on to the next point, because I think we've basically stretched that point thin. I think we've made that clear.
I think we have. What's number 4, Andrew?
Now, waiting, when you do have a chorus, a way to ruin this is to wait too long for the chorus. A way to make the song better is to just get right into the chorus. Have you noticed a trend here throughout this whole thing? We're pointing out how you could ruin a song and then telling you how to make the song better. It's because it's way easier to point out mistakes and problems than it is to point out what made a song great. And so we're pointing these things out so that way you can look at your song and say, am I waiting too long for the chorus, instead of saying, I need to get to the chorus quicker.
Exactly. Inversion thinking.
Exactly. Inversion thinking. It's subtle, but it helps a lot. It helps a ton.
Totally. We're designed to look for problems. So if we can find them and then flip it on its head, that's how we can make sense of this. So if we wait too long to get to the chorus, that is going to be a problem that we can flip on its head. You ever like listen to a song and you get like a minute in and there's like nothing has even really happened yet? And like, of course, if you're a fan of like prog rock, totally cool. Like Rush is my favorite band. I understand. Rush is my favorite band. But once again, with this discussion, we're talking chart topic songs landing on playlists. If you're waiting a minute and a half, and you haven't hit the chorus yet, this might be something you want to think about. Because, for example, same as like a podcast or a YouTube video. Like if it's not engaging, people are going to stop listening. And the whole point of like a Spotify playlist, for example, is to keep you on the playlist, keep you in the vibe, just get into like a trance of enjoying the music in the same way you can get into a trance of enjoying a video. It's like we don't want to take too long to get to the point, and that's what Andrew and I are like learning and trying to become better speakers for this podcast, is like we're trying to get to the point. So the point is, don't wait too long for the chorus. Andrew, would you agree?
I completely agree. Also, with the whole prog metal and Rush thing, and I know that we're gonna get some comments about that if people listen to that style of music, which I do. I love that style of music.
I love it too, man.
Yeah, I will say there is more interesting stuff going on in the first minute than probably through the entirety of most pop songs when it comes to that kind of stuff. So you can't say, like, you're still hooking the listener with very interesting things. There's ear candy. There's different types of chords and inversions that they're using, and there's different types of melodies, and they're changing keys, and they're changing rhythm structures. There's so much interesting stuff going on. You're still hooking the listener.
It's all about the build-up. It's all about the build-up in those songs, and so there's something engaging for sure. And man, like, I'm someone that spent many years listening to like 20-minute songs by Dream Theater. So like, I totally agree with you. And you know what? If you write a song like, if you are making prog music, do exactly what Andrew said. Keep it engaging, keep it all the way, and then you're going to land on those prog playlists that are looking for that, So
exactly.
It's just be intentional with what you're doing, and don't keep looping something if it's unnecessary. If it's part of the story and the build, do your thing. It's art. What's number 5?
All right, wrong key, a way to absolutely destroy things. And there's multiple things that get out of key when people are recording. Multiple examples. So a way to make a song better is, this is a very obvious one, and we shouldn't even have to be mentioning this, but we have to mention this. I get so many songs where the 808 is out of key. So many songs. Real quick, if you're the kind of person that's struggling getting your 808s in key, first of all, figure out what the key of your song is, and then write the melody in that way. Or what I like to do is I jump everything up an octave or 2 octaves so I can clearly hear the note, and then I write all of my 808s in there, and then I drop the MIDI down by an octave or 2 octaves. It just works, and you just never have to worry about your 808s being out of key. But you should also know what key the song is in and make sure that you're pushing it there too. So what do you have to say with this, Alex?
I totally agree, Andrew. I've literally done that 808 thing myself. Sometimes when the 808s are really low, really distorted, you can't even, and they're just in such a low octave, you can't clearly hear the pitch of it. And that total hack is pitch it up an octave, clearly hear the notes, make sure they're actually in the key of the song. You'll be surprised. I've mixed a lot of like beats, like people send their beat stems and stuff like that, and beat multi-tracks, and then it's like, wait a second, this 808 is like in a completely different key of the song. Like this is that's something. Pay close attention to, beat makers or pop song makers. Like, we got to be in the right key. We got to, and of course there are moving bass lines and stuff like that. But this also goes, this wrong key thing goes beyond 808s. Like, for example, probably the biggest example is vocals. And in this case, not being that the vocals you're recording them in the wrong key of the song, but let's actually reverse this whole thing and say that maybe once you get to the vocals, you've realized that you actually haven't tailored the song to the singer. This is something you have to do first in the song. You need to make sure that the song is in the right key for the vocalist. Imagine hiring a whole ton of session musicians, building out your entire song, and then you get to the part of singing it and realize, oh, I didn't even make the song in the best key for my voice. This should be the number one thing you tackle first, is like, find the right key to sing it in if you're a vocalist. Or if you're a producer working for a singer, find out where the song sits best in their vocal range before you go and start building out the song for them. What do you think, Andrew?
No, I completely agree. This is something that happens a lot more than it should, in my opinion. It's just a very tough scenario, and it's always a tough conversation that I have to have with artists where I'm like, hey, this is not in your key. I know that if you pitch this down a half a step, a full step, it would sound so much better for your vocals. You could push it harder, and you wouldn't have to worry about half the stuff you're worrying about. And we wouldn't have to tune nearly as hard, and we wouldn't have to worry about that falsetto jump, because there's that bridge in most people's voices, and the better you are with it, the less that bridge is there. But that chest voice to that falsetto voice, there's a bridge there. And having to listen to people try to track stuff and then try to jump that bridge between their falsetto and their chest voice just doesn't make a lot of sense. Really make sure you're paying attention to what key the song is in while you're writing it, and then we can move on to other stuff. But first and foremost, when you're writing the song, pick a key that actually suits you and your vocals. And if you don't know, ask somebody who you trust, somebody who's going to tell you the truth. Probably not your mom. I don't know. My mom would not tell me the truth. She'd be like, "It's fine, honey. You're doing great."
Here's a really good example of this, actually. So you ever like play a song on the acoustic guitar and you're playing it in the original key? And this is going to relate a lot with the baritone vocalists out there. For example, I would be a baritone, which means like the top of your chest voice range like maxes out around G, and then you got to switch to mixed voice. And if you haven't developed mixed voice yet, you're going to have to switch to some type of head voice there. And a lot of popular songs are sung by a tenor. Let's be honest. Like a lot of let's think of like the big rock anthems. You ever tried like singing Bon Jovi and playing acoustic guitar, right? There's going to be some high notes in there. And what you'll realize is that if you're not a tenor like Bon Jovi, trying to reach up to those high notes isn't going to sound as good as if you just put on a capo and found or transpose the key of the song a little bit and just found your key. And the amazing thing is that no one around you actually knows or cares which key the song was in. The only thing that matters is if it sounds good for your voice. And if you can put it in a key that sounds good for your voice, you're going to just sound that much better, and it's going to be more enjoyable for everyone. So like this should really be a thing that's like destigmatized. It's like it's okay to put the song in your key. Like no one's going to say, if you're playing that acoustic song at your live gig with your guitar, no one's going to say, "Hey, that's not the original key." They're just going to say, "Wow, that was a really great cover that sounded good because they sang it well." It's like, it's totally okay. And so get used to doing that with your songs as well.
Yep, I completely agree with you on that one. Awesome. So let's move on to the last and final. And this one is a tough one. I'm gonna be honest. This one is probably one of the biggest things besides poor performances that'll ruin a song. So
totally ruin a song. You want to give it to us, Andrew?
I'll give it to her. So here it is. Fixing it in the mix. If you are telling yourself that you'll fix it in the mix, you are sadly mistaken. There are, and I will say, a lot of things that you can do to fix a lot of poor recordings. And a good mixing engineer can do absolute magic on a song. But imagine the magic that they could do if they had great quality samples and great quality recordings. There is so much more that a great mixing engineer could do instead of having to try to worry about fixing things all the time. There's two different mindsets when it comes into this. When you choose poor quality samples, for example, or you're choosing the wrong samples for the song, and you're choosing cheaper sound, just cheap sounding stuff, it's just gonna sound off. And then the mix engineer gets into the session, and instead of going to the creative enhancing side of their brain, they're going into the problem solving correction side of their brain. And you will always get a better result from any mixing engineer when you lean towards their strengths, which is the creative enhancing side. When they hear something in a vocal and they say, "I like that, I want more of that," you're going to get a better mix. What do you think?
I think you absolutely nailed it, Andrew. Guys, this is just going back to the same age-old saying of like, get good sound at the source. And if that means like recording, get a really good recording, not like a flimsy kind of thin home recording. It's home recording I'm all for, but you can do home recording well, or you can do it not so well. So it's really just a bit of research. Like you can look into my channel or Andrew's channel. Andrew covers this a ton. How to record things like really just really well at home. And if you just tackle that one simple thing, the outcome can be so much better. And that really helps people like us, mix engineers, just get the best out of your song. Like fixing it in the mix, it can be done, but you're going to get the best results if you get a great recording to start, and then on the other side of recording, just choosing the right samples. Like if you hear a sample that sounds great, that's going to sound better than guess what? There are samples out there that aren't the best samples either. Just because something is a sample doesn't mean it's good. So you still, upon getting sample packs and upon looking for samples, still got to find the best samples for your song, and of course the ones that actually fit the sound of your song. This could probably be its whole own episode, so probably we can wrap it up there. But guys, these are just 6 ways that you can craft better songs that are going to perform better for you on playlists, or just building an audience that resonates with your songs, because these are the things that will always resonate with artists. And the list honestly goes on. So we'll be back with a part 2, probably a part 3 to this. But Andrew, feeling good about this list?
Yeah, I'm feeling fantastic about this list. I love it. If you guys have any questions, add them in the comments below if you're watching on YouTube. But honestly, though, really, if you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend. I know you know a producer. I know you know a mix engineer. I know you know a music lover friend who would really, really enjoy this episode of this podcast. And so if you can think of them, send it to them now, and just say nothing. Just send it, say nothing. And
we
let
do
us
that
know what they
all
respond.
the time with each other, don't we, Andrew? Just like random link appears.
It's like random, but I have a rule. I have a rule.
What's that?
I receive link from Alex. I clicks. That is the only rule.
That's my same rule.
Yeah, there's some people I'm like, hey, look at that.
I pick and choose carefully what I send too, because I know that you might check it out, and I don't want to waste your time, and I know the same for you. So I know if you send something, it's going to be worth watching, And we hope that this episode is worth watching for not just yourself, but with the friend that you choose to share it with. If you could do us that favor, because we want to get the word out there to help make all sorts of better music.
I completely agree. Awesome. If you enjoy this, send it with a friend and tell them that we sent you, or don't tell them anything at all. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Alex and Andrew podcast. We'll see you in the next one.